Okay, Stevie. So, why don't you go ahead for those who aren't familiar, maybe with your story, your background, give us a little bit of history about yourself.
Well, I'm a Native American guy who grew up on the beach in San Diego, California, in North County, San Diego, Carlsbad, Oceanside area. Surfed my whole life, played some guitar in high school, and when I got out of high school, I moved to LA in 1985, and I somehow ended up having a long career in music, sort of by accident, I guess you could say.
Yeah, by accident and played a little guitar. I like the way you've categorized those two items.
Well, at the end of the day, a lot of guys work a lot harder at it than I ever did. I was just lucky. So I do play as little as possible because I hate to practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, knowing a little bit about you don't read music though, right? You got a special gift.
I got a really good ear. I'm lucky that way. I don't have perfect pitch or anything like that. You know what it is? It's weird. It's like I have the ability to listen to something, hear it, and by the time I try to do what it is I saw someone do, or pull off whatever it was I heard in my head, it turns into something different that people seem to like. And so it's worked for me for 30 years now, playing with the biggest people in music history. So
Yeah. So, yeah, who are some of those? I know you from, particular guy in the '80s, early '90s by the name of Rod. But maybe yeah, give a couple of folks that you played with.
well, I just go all the way back. 1985, I'm homeless, sleeping on the couch at Baby O recording studio. I get discovered by George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic. Then I start working with Bootsy Collins. Then everyone thought I was famous because I was working with George Clinton and Bootsy Collins, who are like super legends, when really I'd never done anything. So then they started hiring me all over. I ended up meeting a guy called Don Was, co-produced this song and played guitar on this weird record called What Up Dog with a band called Was Not Was. And next thing you know, that went number one. Then I scored a movie with an unknown director named Stephen Herrick, and I was in the movie, and it ended up coming out. And it was called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and that became like this $1 billion thing. All these weird little things that nobody really wanted to do, I did because I needed money, and they all turned out huge. And then in 1988, I joined Rod Stewart and went straight into multiple nights at Madison Square Gardens and private plane and all that, and signed a record deal with Island Records and wrote songs for tons of people and produced records for tons of people and played guitar with Mick Jagger, Terrence Trent D'Arby, toured with Duran Duran in '93 on the Wedding album tour. Uh,
Mm.
all kinds of stuff. What else? I can't even remember. It's been so much stuff.
Yeah.
Sold a couple million solo albums. Worked with a really famous Japanese artist who's a friend of mine, Koshi Naba, who sold 100 million records. I kind of just goof off a lot, and I work as little as possible, just enough to try to be able to afford to have some fun stuff like buy houses, cars, and watches.
Well, it's people say living the dream, and anytime I talk to you, it sounds like you are, aside from the massive travel schedule, sounds like you are definitely always living the dream.
Well, you don't do so bad yourself. I happened when I met you. We were both sitting in first class on an airplane flight, so you're doing all right yourself.
So, well, I think that's a good story. So, yeah, I think the way we met years ago was, on first class, but it wasn't just because we were in first class, it's because I saw something on your wrist. So, what was it you were wearing that day?
I was wearing a stainless Daytona, Rolex Daytona watch. My watch I bought, by the way. I got it just to mess with people. I didn't really get it to actually tell time. I have to wear my glasses to even to see what time it is. I just bought it because I knew it was going to mess with people. But actually, it's been an amazing thing for me because I've met so many cool people because of that watch,
Yeah.
including yourself. I
No,
mean,
I know.
we've had years of hanging out and being pals, and it all started because of that watch.
I know it's a crazy thing when when you meet people that have a similar interest. I'm sure you find this in the music industry and film production as well, but like just these common threads that we attach to, and yeah, I've met some just great people through the watch community as well, and it's been a great ride that I've had, being a brand owner, but I think it's a really interesting thing. I mean, yeah, we were total complete strangers, met on a plane. You even, you let me take you, drop you off at wherever you were going because I had a rental car. Like it was just really, really cool experience, man.
That's hilarious. That part of it I don't really remember,
You
but
probably blocked it out because it
you,
could have turned bad, man.
nah, yeah, no, yeah, you could, yeah, nah, you were cool. I could tell. The thing is, you're arousing me because I was trying to be quiet, but I was in the middle of finishing my book, and I was talking about my book. I think, right? Was I talking
Yeah,
about my, was I talking
you
about my
were.
movie Rumble or my book?
No,
And
no, no. This was when we were the boys, the book. Yeah.
I find that so embarrassing because I try so hard not to be that guy on the, you always hear these stories about, some actor and you see him and he's sitting at the pool and he's reading a script and, and you're like, oh man, who wants to be that guy? So I'm sure I was trying to be quiet. So that's always an embarrassing story to me that you can actually overhear me complaining about something in my book.
Yeah, well, I tell you, embarrassing or not, it was cool. I had to talk to you after that, and especially seeing your watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll
So
tell you, let me tell you about this thing
yeah.
about this watch, by the way. I never wore watches, right?
Hmm.
And I was in Hawaii hanging out with a friend of mine, and he had a Daytona. And he just started telling me about this watch. And when he was telling me about this watch, he kept saying, this watch is impossible to get. He goes, I got it in New York years ago. I have a friend. I searched for him. Impossible. He just got me going on this thing that it was impossible to have, right? And I
Yeah.
started to think, wow, that would be great to get one, but it's I couldn't. You can never walk in a store and find one. So then the next thing that happened was I took a job at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and New York City to develop an exhibit there, a big music history exhibit. And I felt like, I'd show up to work, I'd fly into Washington, D.C., and I'd be wearing surf trunks. And I went to high school, I graduated in 12th grade, and that's about it.
Yeah, man.
Play
California. You're a
rock,
California boy. Yeah.
yeah, rock and roll. I got wild hair and I'm wearing surf trunks. And I'm going to the Smithsonian, and everyone there were these highly intelligent scholars. And I'd go out and I'd go there and go out in New York City, and there'd be all these rich guys that were into stocks and all this stuff. And I realized that one of my buddies said, when I'm doing business with a guy, I don't judge him by his car or by his shoes or by
Mm,
some flashy thing. I judge him a guy I'm going to do business with by his timepiece. And he
mm.
said to me, he goes, I can tell what kind of guy. If he walks in wearing a sub, he's probably kind of an athlete, maybe, and he's going to have somewhat of a spirit of being outside, hard charging life. If
Right.
he walks in with a little tiny Gucci this, or he can tell a guy. If he pulls up in a green Lamborghini, it lets you know what kind of guy he is. But when he's going to do business with a guy, he looks at his timepiece.
Mm,
So I started thinking, man, I got people that look at me like I'm some kind of like criminal loser, moron, rock and roll guitar player.
right.
They can't tell if I have money or not. They don't know. There's a guy, he's just some kid with crazy hair and surfs. And so I was working at American Idol at the same time, and I had my last year at Idol, I had to deal. I had to take care of a guy called Adam Lambert, who's the lead singer of Queen now. And Adam Lambert at that time was probably the most famous human being on the planet during the end of American Idol run. And I was a music director and a consultant there at Idol, and I was his music director. So I met a girl who worked at Rolex in Orange County, California, and she wanted Adam Lambert's autograph. And
Mm.
I said to her, kidding around, she didn't know I was kidding, I guess. I said, I'll get you his autograph, but you got to do me a favor. You got to get me a stainless steel Daytona. And thinking she was going to go, right, good luck, buddy. Are you
Oh wow.
dreaming?
Yeah.
That's what they all say. Are you dreaming? Are you crazy? What? And she goes, I have one in the safe. And it was like that. It was like,
Unreal.
well, there was two of them because my insurance guy, my buddy who's been my insurance guy for 100 years in LA, Stan, he wanted one too. So we both got them.
Wow.
And there it was. All of a sudden I had one. So then when I go to New York, I put that thing, I'd have that on, not thinking anything. And I'd show up in my surf trunks and flip flops or whatever, but I'd be wearing this Daytona. And most people didn't know what it was. Most, it wasn't like girls look at it and go, ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was always some guy who had a ton of money that would stare at it. And at the end of the night, he'd blow up drunk saying, how'd you get that? That's white gold. I know it's not stainless, right? You can't get a stainless. I go, no, man. He'd rather I'd spend $35,000 and have it be white gold than have it actual stainless. That's how pissed off that watch
Yeah.
would. It would drive guys crazy because they could have all the money in the world and they couldn't get one. And I realized this watch is my watch. This is the
Yeah.
watch for me. I love it.
Well, and it hasn't, obviously things haven't changed that much with respect to Rolex's allure and exclusivity around that challenge of attainment. I mean, you're to your point, you just still can't get them.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
rare that way.
I got my two type of watches now, So I wear my Rolex Daytona just because I like to see the look on people's faces when they actually know what it is. And then I like to wear my DuFrane watch, the first one I got from you,
Yeah,
because it looks so cool, and it has this old school style, but it also represents Austin, where I live. I live in Austin, Texas, and it's an
yeah.
Austin brand. So yeah, those are my two go tos.
Well, I'm honored to be a part of the repertoire there. I mean, that's pretty good company for sure.
You know what? I'm going to tell you though, I'm a bit of a wuss, because I know that to be able to wind it all the time is what makes it cool. But you know how many times I'm walking around, I go to look at it, and it's like it stops. I'm like, damn it.
You wouldn't believe how many folks have purchased that watch and gotten back to me and said it just doesn't work, man. It's just something wrong with it. It just doesn't work.
It keeps
And
stopping after a
yeah,
day.
that's exactly right. And it's a simple matter of winding. So that's that piece though. A traditional manual winding movement makes it a very unique model for the masses. That's for sure.
Well, that's the whole idea of that piece, right? You want to get back into some old school way of
That's right.
style and thinking, and that's the whole thing. I mean, you can be like everybody else. I think it's pretty cool. I just sometimes I forget to. I'll be walking around thinking I look all cool. My clock, it'll look like it's three in the afternoon. It'll be 8 at
Yeah.
night. And people are like, "What's wrong with you?"
Right. You don't worry about time. So just to kind of bring back a little bit, California boy traveling quite a bit. Yeah. What brought you to Austin? How long have you been in Austin? Because I'm curious about your thoughts on kind of how Austin has changed. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know how you got here.
Well, you figure what? I met you probably 8 years ago. I would think by now, probably,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going on my 10th year in Austin, and I moved here for one reason. Everyone goes, "Oh, you moved there for the music?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm old. I want to play Madison Square Gardens when I go on tour now. I'm not into playing blues in the bar." Um, but so I didn't move here for the music. Although when I first moved here, I loved it. But I moved here about 10 years ago, and I moved here so my son could go to this school here. There's a really cool private school that deals with the arts, and I bought a house right next to the school, and that's the only reason I really moved here. I moved here also too because I was living on the beach in LA and the beach in San Diego. I had two houses, and I was getting tired of California. It was changing a lot. It wasn't as soulful as it was when I grew up there. In
Right.
Austin, when I first moved here, it was incredibly soulful. I had a ton of old music business friends. Charlie Sexton literally lived around the corner from me, and I knew Charlie since I was in Rod Stewart in 1988. I mean, I've known these. I have a lot of old friends here and these people were like the salt of the earth. All my friends I met here when I first moved here are about the coolest people. And I was also blown away that like in California, you don't even have a kid until you're like 50, right? Because you're like, because you're like, everybody's too busy being fabulous and beautiful and trying to be young. And I moved to Austin, and like my neighbors have 5 kids, 6 kids, and I'm like, what? And I realized that everything when I first moved here was so cheap that like the one guy in the family could work and the mom could stay home and raise the kids, and so everybody had big families. And I just thought that was so beautiful and so awesome. And it was bringing it back to things that I had forgotten about living in New York
Mm,
City, living in London, England, living
mm.
in Los Angeles. You forget about these things. And unfortunately, a lot of that's changed now. Now both parents got to work here just to be broke. And
Yeah.
it's changed a lot in Austin, and not for the better, I'm sorry to say. But my original friends are still the coolest people on the planet.
Yeah, I know we kind of talked about this, the changes that have happened in Austin, and I thought it's an interesting analogy. When I first moved here, and I've been here for about 20 years, but somebody asked me once what the equivalent car is for Austin. So when you think of Austin, what car do you think of? And it used to be, I think you and I both agree, it was kind of this cool, eclectic, collectible old car type of thing, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
it still works great, but it looks terrible. It's just, the salt of the earth kind of a vehicle.
Yeah, and preferably with a gun rack in the back. Just be fun,
That's
even though,
right.
even if you've never even owned a gun. You
That's
got,
right.
it was all my buddy Jimmy Quill moved here before I did. He grew up with me in Oceanside, California, and I go out to his house and he's got an old beat up white truck with a gun rack, and he takes photos. Like here's a photo of him, and he's got like some straw hat on with a piece of hay in his mouth. But then realistically, the real Jimmy Quill I know is driving around in a Range Rover. So it was all sort of an image, right? A lot of guys moved here and they had this image of the old truck, the old car. I mean, even
Yeah.
Charlie Sexton's got some old like 1948 Merc or something. I remember parked that. It's kind of like I had the weird thing is I had an old '77 Bro. I drove I had a 2-seater Mercedes Benz. You remember that car?
Yeah.
I had it forever. It was I put surfboards in the back of it, and then I gave it away to my parents. And you saw it when my father had passed away, and I brought it to Austin, Texas. But I had it forever. But I also had this '77 beat up. It wasn't beat up. It was actually super trick. In LA, there was a guy called Sean and owned a company called Rocky Road, and he used to take '70s Broncos and build
Mm.
them. And I had the most radical '70s Bronco. Me
Oh, that's
and
cool.
yeah, there was a whole bunch of guys in LA. We all had them, and Sean made them for us. And Jeremy Piven had one, and it was funny because those old Broncos break all the time. So Jeremy's Bronco he had this black one, I had a blue one, and they were always in Sean's shop together. And so,
Mm.
like over the years, like I ran into Jeremy Piven. I was at the opening of the new Hard Rock Hotel in Florida a couple months ago, and Jeremy was there smashing a guitar. And I was smashing a guitar at the same time. We were there together at the singing. And I ran into also at a club in London, and we always talk about our Broncos. Oh,
Oh,
our
wow.
Broncos. The Bronco, you look so cool when you're driving down the street, and then the windshield wipers on, and next thing you know, the windshield wiper just flies off into space. It's like, but it's like it's so cool, and it's sort of
That's
like
a car with character. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's sort of like that. So I had my fill of old cars, but when I got to Austin, I thought, I'd like to have one of those, like maybe a '80s, early '80s, Chevy truck or something. And then I started thinking about how constantly, you get in it, and there's no AC,
Right. Yeah.
and I got over that real quick. But that was the go-to car, and I almost went out and got me one. And also,
Yeah.
the other thing I think that I might have said to you one time is, you can buy that truck in Albuquerque, New Mexico for $2,000, but if you buy an old '78 truck in Austin, it's like 12 grand or 15 grand.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Such
Yeah.
a poser town, right?
Well, it's changed a lot. I mean, I still love this town, but kind of back to that analogy of a car, when what I used to think versus what I think now, and I mean, I'm guilty of this as well, but I've never seen more Teslas. I haven't lived in California, but I mean, I see Teslas all day, every day, everywhere in this town, and it seems like that's kind of the equivalent, car to represent Austin nowadays.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Austin is no longer a music town. It's not a it's a it ain't Stevie Ray Vaughan's Austin anymore. It's Apple's Austin and Google's Austin. It's a tech town. And
Yeah.
it's like if I got to get served, if I walk into a restaurant now, can I just get a Corona? And they're like, what? We got like we got 18 different types of weird beers I never heard of, and none of them in a bottle, right?
There's a
And,
few of those places still around, but yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
yeah, and you also got like, if I got to have a guy in a beard who's going to serve me my enchiladas now, and it is what it is. But it's things evolve.
Yeah.
It's become a tech town, and it's brought a lot of money, and all of you're happy, I'm happy, I guess, because our houses have quadrupled or whatever. But
Well, I still love this town. I love raising my kids here, but it's definitely changed. But you know what? I don't know if that's, necessarily a bad thing. Meaning, everything can't stay the same. But there's still pockets of that kind of old Austin energy for sure that keep Austin weird. There's pockets of it. They're just getting
well,
harder to find.
remember that was everywhere. Keep Austin weird. You'd always
I
see
know.
like a gal in cowboy boots and like some cool old fashioned '40s dress with
Oh yeah.
hairy armpits, and don't Dallas my Austin, and
Oh yeah. The seeing Leslie Walker. Do you remember Leslie?
which one was Leslie?
Leslie was the cross-dressing guy that ran for mayor at one
Oh,
point.
there you go.
He was
Exactly.
awesome. He was
Yeah.
so cool. Everybody loved him. He'd ride around on his bike, and everybody just loved him. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he had part of that old vintage Austin vibe, and when he passed away, maybe some of that energy left with him.
Yeah, everything's going to change. Everything's going
Yeah,
to change. And
yeah,
Austin is still, when I travel the world and I tell someone I live in Austin, I get an instant smile and an
No
instant
doubt.
welcoming sort of things. And so people identify Austin with friendly, cool, and
Yeah,
it's still that. My
it is.
son and
Yeah.
my son loves it here, and his school's amazing. And he's in my son's class, and Marty from the Dixie Chicks daughters in my son's class, and
Mm.
another guy, a guy that I worked with in LA forever from England, you know, um, um, Tim Palmer, who produced David Bowie, and his daughter goes to that school. And Tim and I came up together in LA and New York and London, working with, Michael Hutchins and all these different stars.
Yeah,
We did,
yeah,
and all of a sudden, we all live in Austin, and that part is really cool. It's very
yeah,
cool, actually.
yeah. Well, to keep it kind of topical in the framework of like kind of what's going on. So I know you were traveling. You'd mentioned the Inaba, relationship. You guys have another tour kicking off. So you were traveling to Japan. You had to come back, and unfortunately had to go into quarantine because you were traveling internationally. So what have you been doing? How you been handling this kind of stay at home situation? I mean, we're doing this over a Google Hangout. So just kind of curious what you've been up to the last couple of weeks and what you're going to be doing
Well,
in
yeah.
the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Well, I put myself in self-imposed quarantine actually, but I came home I'm on my 16th day home now from Japan. And the thing is, in Japan, it was much safer than Japan than it was here. Well, I mean, not in
Mm.
Austin, but much safer than say if I was in California or New York. But everybody freaked out. A lot of people, sometimes a small town comes with this. Everybody was freaking out, thinking I was in China. And I'm going, no, it's another country. It's Japan. It's a different place. And so I had a little bit of problems. I was going to my son's school play, and they asked me not to come. But then they
Mm.
let the other dads who flew in from New York City go, which was way gnarly. And I was like, kind of
Oh
not
wow.
happy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've
Mm.
been on quarantine. I've been really loving hanging out with my son, not having to be at the airport
Yeah.
every 3 days. And but I'm eating way too much ice cream, and it's kind of a nice thing. I was talking to Stevie Van Zandt yesterday, and he says, I was going crazy, but he goes, now I'm kind of like enjoying. It's like time has slowed down a little bit, and
Yeah.
and,
You get used to it for sure.
and it feels like how it used to feel in the '90s when time didn't feel like it was rushing up your ass so hard. It
Mm.
felt like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, I'm kind of liking it actually now.
Well, I hope so because we've got several weeks to go. I fear.
Yeah, yeah, I won't be
It is
liking
what
it.
it is.
I
Yeah.
won't be liking it when we're living in a tent and I gotta move out of the house and we're all bankrupt. But other than that, I'm liking it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and with the closure of South by Southwest, that took a big hit for all of those musicians, here in town, as well as everybody that came in. I don't know if you have any, knowledge or can share just any of your friends and kind of what people in the music industry are doing, because that's the art, right? Is you perform in front of people, and that's gone now.
yeah, I think that's only going to be gone for a little while. But I mean,
Yeah.
this is going to be over soon. Like I have a concert, a whole 2.5 months worth of concerts starting on the end of April in Japan, and we've sold over 80,000 tickets, and we're trying to figure out by tomorrow
Mm.
if we're going to have to postpone the tour or not. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, so it's a massive inconvenience, and it'll take and sure, we're all going to lose a ton of money. But at the end of the day, these things happen, and you just got to
Right.
roll with it. And things will be back to normal soon enough, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do too, and I hope so. And it is sad because I enjoy music. I know Austin, lots of people enjoy music here. People are really looking forward to, South by Southwest. Took a big hit to the economy, took a big hit to, people just wanting to perform. But, obviously seems like the right thing to do. And to your point, I think we move on here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, the funny thing is musicians probably saved a few bucks since there's no South by because South by doesn't pay the poor musicians.
Well, that's true. No, that's true.
So they,
Exposure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But
they might have saved a couple bucks. I'm guilty at South by. I speak at South by every couple of years, and I'll do a mentorship thing or something.
mm,
But I end up just sitting in the Four Seasons all day and all night, just running into old friends, and that's my hangout, man. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
do miss that.
I know. Yeah, you invited me to one of those. That was pretty epic.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I want to be respectful of your time here. I think we've already been talking for like 30 minutes or so, but There's a couple of things I wanted to finish up with. There's a picture of you that you sent me that's absolutely amazing. It's a picture of you being mobbed by probably no less than 200 people. You're holding a water bottle in one hand, and it looked like you're trying to raise it to kind of guide your way through this mob. But what was interesting is that most of the picture is blurry, except for a perfectly focused shot of the Bergstrom on your wrist. What's the story behind that? Where were you?
Do you know how long it took me to frame that photo, to light it, and to get that? I had to get those extras, the actions. I was moving, but my hand had
Yeah,
to be perfectly still so your watch was in focus. You
yeah,
know that was
yeah. The
all.
$50,000 budget for that shot, right?
Oh no, that would have been about $300,000 budget, by the way. And talking to a filmmaker here, but no, that's the weirdest thing in the world. I'm so stupid. I came out of a concert, and I don't know what city I was in, and there was like a couple few hundred fans all across the street with security all around, standing there waving and cheering and screaming as I walked out of the backstage of the venue to go into my car with I had a security guy with me and blah blah blah. And I said to my manager, I said, "Let's walk over and just say hi. They're so cool. They're all standing
Oh,
there so
okay.
nice." And he goes, "Yeah, come on." And we walked over, and I got complete. It was I actually I've never been scared. I got kind of scared. They went bananas,
Oh, wow.
and you saw the photo. My hair is in flying because I am moving, and my arm was in the air with that bottle. I think I was pointing and waving like somebody come and get me, and
Oh,
and
okay.
my manager was smart enough to not worry about me. He was getting the photos,
Oh,
and
wow.
and he took that photo, and I'm not kidding. I was getting molested. I mean, I was getting it. They were just like, and they were all like full of love and well, nothing bad, but they were.
Sure, sure, sure.
They went banana. It was really scary. And
Oh,
I saw that photo, and when I saw that, I looked and I saw my arm up in the air, and your watch was in perfect focus, and then everything else around was like it was like a whirlwind of energy.
uh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
so great. It's so great. So I'll share that photo when we post the podcast. That'll be the kind of the cover, if you will, for the announcement of this recording.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wanted the Japanese to get a taste of Austin, Texas, so I was wearing that watch on the tour, and I got a lot of compliments on that watch actually.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, cool. So, I'm obviously a big fan of yours, Stevie. I've been following you. I know all the many different things and projects you're a part of, from making guitars, all the way to producing this incredible documentary, Rumble. But for those that want to follow you and check you out, what's a great either Instagram or Twitter Twitter handle?
Yeah, Stevie Salas Twitter or Stevie Salas official at Instagram or Stevie Salas on Facebook. And if you did listen to this, send me make sure if you post something that you say you heard this, so I know that what you're talking about because I get a ton of messages on there. We didn't even get to talk about though
What's that?
my accidental investment.
Your accidental investment. Well, let's go there. What is that?
My accidental investment. I did not buy a stock. I did not buy it was like buying a Rembrandt. I walk into a jewelry store in a really small blue collar town where most people would
Oh,
go.
I know what you're talking about. Okay, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we definitely need to end on this.
I walk into a blue collar, a really great jewelry store that's been there, family owned for over 40 years, and it's in this mall in a super blue collar town. I don't want to say, but it's in Canada. I'll say that because I am a Canadian resident, and I see a 1970 uh, stainless Daytona sitting there,
Hmm.
and the owner's like, I'm like, is that real? He's like, yeah, because he's a Rolex dealer, so he can't sell that if he can't sell a fake one, right? And he goes, I have it here. A guy came in whose father gave it to him in 1972, and he's had it forever, and he wanted to get it serviced. And when I told him it was going to be like $2,000 or $3,000 to service it or something like that, he flipped his wig. So he sold it to me, and I don't know, the guy probably bought it for so cheap. So I gave him a Milgauss or something and a couple grand or something. So he had it for sale there, and it's a 1970/71 stainless Daytona.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it? A 68? What do they call it? A 60?
I think it's a six. I can't remember, man. I can't remember.
Me neither.
I don't want to. I don't want to misrepresent the model that it is, but I do remember you reaching out to me, sending me some pictures of this, and this was a good 2 years or year before you actually bought it. And I said, you got to tell me where that is because I'm going to buy it right now from you. You got to. I couldn't be more pronounced in the fact that you got to get your hands on this thing.
Well, you're the one who convinced me to buy it, because of course I was a little nervous, because you're never going to drop that kind of money. And you know, anybody who knows it's a 62, 63 or 68, I forget whatever that number one is. Like it's the same year as the Paul Newman, whatever one is.
Yeah.
And you know, I got it, as you know, for I don't want to say the number, but it was incredibly cheap. You know, but
in comparison, right.
Yeah, I'm seeing some of those watches. I mean, I actually saw one for sale for $325,000, and so now it's so awesome. And thanks to you, I got it. But even when I was buying it, it's like, is this, or is it real? It feels all light and cheap, and you're like, no, it's supposed to. They didn't use
they're hollow, man. Those are hollow links and hollow,
but I got it, and I got to tell you, I got to thank you, because it's probably one of the smartest investments I've ever done. I mean, I can't wear it now. I got to keep it in a safe deposit box in the bank, because now it's like that. It's too much risk for me. I bought it. I wanted to wear it. You know, I like to wear my stuff. You know, I like to drive my cars and wear it. But that thing's too much. But yeah, I love to bring it out though and show it to friends.
Oh, especially for those that can appreciate that. Well, I tell you what, I have a feeling at some point in the future, your son is going to be offered by Christie's, a fairly substantial percentage of the proceeds from the famous Stevie Salas's Rolex Daytona that'll go to auction.
Yeah. You know, as soon as I die, he's gonna cut loose with it right away. I'm sure he is. But you know, I don't know. I bought it really for that though. I want him to have it, but I also, it's you know, there's something amazing about when you can get something like that timepiece that's like, you know, it's funny to think that it was like the ugly duckling nobody wanted.
I know. Now dealers couldn't get rid of them. They absolutely could not get rid of them. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like that girl that you went to school with, and you never looked twice at her. Maybe you throw football with her or something, but she's like, and she loved you, but you didn't even know, because she's like, didn't look like the super hot chick. Then you run into her about 15 years later, and you're like, huh? And she's like, and she teases you a little bit, pretends like she might let you kiss her, and then at the end she socks it to you. She goes, "You wouldn't give me the time of day," because this has happened to me, by the way. And so you know, I got that watch is like that. It's like taunts you, and so I want to wear it. And it's so awesome. But you know, I want to have to break it out every once in a while in front of some of your friends, because although it makes me feel bad to see a grown man cry, I do enjoy seeing the looks on their face.
Oh, it's something special. Well, for those that appreciate it, that's for sure. Well, cool.
Yeah, goes right in there with right in with my DuFrane, baby.
Well, hey, there you go. I really appreciate it, man. And yeah, you know, Stevie is the brand ambassador for DuFrane. Proudly wears his on tour. And we got a new piece coming up here pretty soon. Well, we'll say in the next probably 6 or 8 months that you'll get your hands on as well. So
the coronavirus piece.
The CV19 model, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, again, thanks so much for taking the time, and have fun in solidarity confinement.
You know it, man. I'll be here in lockdown, and if you ever need to find me, you know where I'm at.
Awesome. Thanks again, man.
Bye-bye, Steve.
Bye-bye.